Hello YouTube, it is Chris here, and for the next 7 days, we're gonna be up here in the Rocky Mountains, in the snow, in blizzard conditions, no signal, no nothing. Welcome back everybody, and thank you for sticking with me. So a lot of the gear that we're going to be bringing with us on this venture, very familiar things that you've seen, but there's a lot of new tools like sleds, snowshoes, super insulated sleeping packs that I'm just not used to bringing. It's a really fun experience. There's going to be a lot of that freaking legwork cardio down. First things first, we've got my backpack. This bad boy is a 45-liter pack from Roaring Fire Gear. We've been able to be blessed to experience some super expensive hunting backpacks, but in this particular situation, I want to grab a really cheap, like $39 pack, see what it can do in the harsh conditions up in the mountains. Next up is my tried and true Haversack from the Hidden Woodsman. I love this bad boy, and I have no reasons to leave it behind because when we're going on day trips, we're going to go fishing and hunting and doing all these things out in the woods. I want to be able to carry supplies because things like hydration and first aid and being able to keep yourself insulated, illumination, they're going to be vitally important because here, if you make mistakes, it can be extremely dangerous. Now, speaking of insulating layers, first set are my gloves. These are insulated 3M insulation Carhartt gloves. I picked them up at Bass Pro Shop. They're really inexpensive though. They're like 29, 30 bucks. They are super warm. Like I feel in my heart that I could reach into an oven and actually go pull out like a frying pan because they've been keeping my fingers nice and warm up here. When it comes to our sleeping arrangements, I've got some new underquilts and top quilts that are going to be rated for the temperatures that we're going to be dealing with. This comes from a company called UGQ Gear, and these are rated for -10 degrees Fahrenheit, which is roughly about -30 degrees Celsius. If I've got my math right, it could be a little bit off. This is the top quilt that we're going to be using that can also kind of button down and become kind of a mummy, a pseudo mummy sleeping bag. And then we also have the underquilt that's rated for -10 degrees Fahrenheit as well. Over this is my war bonnet hammock. You guys have seen this in a ton of videos. This is the El Dorado. I've used this on my 30-day survival challenge. This thing has been on almost 7 different adventures and it's held true. It's super lightweight. I love it because I can set it up once I get between 2 trees. It takes maybe 60 seconds. I think it'll take a little longer in snowshoes, but that's just because I have to walk around kind of goofy. But other than that, it should be straightforward. Okay, so moving on to our tools. So this is a company that is near and dear to my heart. This is KC Knives out of Canada. This is their brand new C16. This is going to be my huge trailblazer, my massive knife that's going to be for self-defense, wood processing, brush clearing, all the things that I might need, and this thing is a champ. It is rocking a chest rig, so it's going to be more comfortable to carry, but inside the cartridge, this is the curved pocket boy. This is the 170. It's a little bit bigger, but it still is very small profile. And for most things you would need in the outdoors, you don't need anything more than this. I know some people want to bring the big ones or 7 saws or anything bigger, but realistically, you don't need anything bigger than this. This will do you. The axis. This is going to be my only axe for this trip because we want to give this a workout. For anybody who's been following my live streams and social media, this bad boy is on Kickstarter. Hopefully it's still on Kickstarter by the time this video airs. But it's designed to be a survival axe that can be hafted with any type of green wood you can find out in the forest. They were nice enough to give us one. This one's already been hafted. We've been testing this for over a month before we came out here in the woods, and it gives you really substantial weight. And why I think this will perform really well is because this particular axe head is 3/8 of an inch thick. This is basically a 1.5 pound head, which is the same weight you'd be getting from a Grand Forest Brooks, Council Tools, or Holtzbrook axe. Obviously, no venture would be complete without my trusty cold steel shovel. I've owned this bad boy since 2011. I love this guy. And with being able to clear out some campsites and stuff when we do some primitive shelters, I think this is going to be vitally important. And last but not least, for the tool section, is the Union by Toller Tools. This is a pre-production model that they were gracious enough to let us field test out in the wild. This is going to be my multi-tool. It has a knife, pliers, saw, pretty much everything you could want in a multi-tool. Comes apart for a double wrench system, which is pretty exciting. So one of the first priorities of survival outside of shelter and water is going to be what? Fire. So fire is going to be very, very important. This is my fire kit. So inside my fire kit, when it's all dumped out, we have my Fiberlite Fire Kit. That basically just pinch it, strike it, light it up. It's water resistant. It'll handle all these harsh temperatures. It was actually created in Oregon. So the guys up there are very used to temperatures and climes like this, and they know what they're doing. This is some of my favorite kind of pinch pull light fire starters that I've ever used in my entire life. But then for some fun experimentation, I've got the Tendar wick, which is a waxed hemp cordage rope. And if you kind of utilize this correctly, this could last about as long as a normal Bic lighter. My main fire starter is going to be my Quadratum Elite from 4 Directions Bushcraft. I love the square fire steel because, one, it doesn't just roll around on me on my pack and I don't lose it as easily. I've never lost a fire steel. I like this because it's 8 inches long. So when you need to get some really good leverage on the spine of your knife or a scraper, you basically can get away with doing 1 or 2 strikes down the full length of the ferro rod. And more than likely, with really good tinder, with something like this, with some really awesome natural stuff that's out here in the woods, it's a one or two strike hit and you're good to go. That fire's lit and you just feel so much better. So in addition to our tools and hunting gear for illumination and safety, especially at night, is I have my illumination tools. Now I brought a few more illumination tools than I normally bring on a lot of my adventures. So for this one, I brought back the Clarisse Headlamp because on my 7-day subscriber survival challenge, it did phenomenal. With all the night hunts we did, it never went out on me. It didn't get overly hot. It had really good heat and sink, but the actual brightness and illumination was absolutely perfect. But because we're going to be out here and the temperature is going to be a lot colder, I wanted to make sure I had a backup. I kind of want to do the prepper motto, and I've got this, which is my Rovivon. This is a 2000 lumen flashlight with a huge battery built in. It's basically this lamp and the rest of its battery. So with the deep carry pocket clip that's on the flashlight, what's really cool is we can actually just clip this to our haversack or wherever and still be able to maintain hands-free function while we're out in the bush climbing around. So even if my headlamp dies and I got to wait to change out the batteries, use the solar panels in the morning, I've got a backup to keep my path lit up. For hydration, we have my model or model water bottle. Now this has a normal water bottle spout right here where I can use. This is 40 ounces and it has a steel lip on the top end for rigidity, but because of its compact design, it can be folded down really small, really flat for packability. But it's very durable given the fact that it's made of a silicone. This can actually handle freezing temperatures all the way up to a rolling boil inside of this. So let's say I get a little bit too cold in my hammock, I need to warm myself up. I can boil some water inside this bottle, which is super cool with this being a kind of a silicone bottle, and kind of just snuggle up with this thing and keep myself warm all night. I want to go light and fast with my fishing gear. This is the Kabuya Handline by Emberlit Stoves or Merkwares. And I love this thing. We used this in the mountains back in the day, about 2 years ago, and it was awesome. We did some brook trout fishing and we just had an absolute blast. But it's really convenient because I can keep this in my haversack or in my pocket. I see something, kind of just line up, hook in, throw in my worms, I'm good to go. In addition to that, obviously, if we run into any raccoons, squirrels, things like that, weasels, got my blowgun, my trusty blowgun. I've brought this on a ton of trips, and as you guys saw in my previous adventure, we got snakes, we got skunks, we got tons of stuff out there. I even had this 2 or 3 day night hunt run-in with a tactical assault possum, otherwise known as an armadillo, with to no avail. Apparently I cannot pierce that bulletproof armor that is on their backs. Next up, we have cooking, because I want hot meals if I can. Obviously eating raw raccoons, probably pretty disgusting. It's not exactly the kind of sushi I want to be eating. So first, we're gonna go a little bit light and fast. This is the Billy Goat Pot from Firebox Stove. It has a locking lid, so if you ever decide to do something fun and crazy like bake bread, you could totally turn this sideways without losing the lid, which is pretty cool. It just makes the packability a little bit nicer. All in all, this will be a 3-quart pot, which for some of the lighter stuff, since we're gonna be splitting our cookware and responsibilities between 3 people, for an individual, for myself, should be more than enough. Moving along with the food portion, in case we catch anything like a red squirrels and some other exciting things that I've already seen up in the mountains since I've been here, I got a squirrel cooker. I got this from my buddy Mikhail from Emberlit Stoves. He actually hand forged this himself in his own shop, and this thing is pretty exciting. It's pretty simple to use, and we can kind of basically pit roast on the fire some small little creatures out there. It's not a necessity, but because I've never been able to utilize one, I wanted to take the opportunity, because inside my pack, this isn't very heavy. This is maybe a ½ pound worth of steel. And then last but not least, for things like soup, coffees, pine needle teas, whatever I might run into while I'm up there, I've got my Canteen from Heavy Cover. This is a titanium canteen. As you guys have noticed, there's a titanium trend, because with all of the thin air, for me, you gotta understand, I am a Texas boy. I'm used to 400 or 500 foot elevations, and right now, as I'm standing on the bottom of the mountain, I'm over a mile up high. So for me, the air is very thin and dry out here, and we're still gonna be going a good 1,000 feet up in the air. So it's gonna be a lot thinner, a little bit more of a workout for me. We're gonna be rocking our snowshoes. I think these are just standard kind of Costco brand that you could just find pretty much anywhere. They're nothing super special. My buddy Mike lent them to me for this entire trip, so a big shout out to Mike from Viper Sharp, who's also our big companion out here. But all in all, with that said, from our fire kit to our sleeping pads, if you were going to be out in sub-freezing temperatures in the mountains, what would you be bringing? I'd love to hear you guys' opinions down in the comment section, and hope you guys are excited for the venture. I am, because I've never been up north, never been in the mountains in the wintertime, never been in 3 feet of snow. See you in the next one.